Okay, I'm gonna try to get into the after credit boss, and I'll start talking once I manage to get into it, and get the fight going. So, I don't forgot which slot I saved in. I'm going to try save file 5 and see if it gets me where I would like where I would like to be. So one of these saves is just before beginning that final fight. When it prompts you to save. Yeah, okay. So let's get into it. So, I have a hard time remembering these names, so I'm gonna have a hard time remembering it's Surkahi. But I guess to help myself out, I'll pretend it's Sir, S-I-R, space Kahi. Maybe that will help. Welcome, Jahurungi, to the end of the labyrinth. This is how it would have appeared if Kanoka had not taken my place as your challenger. By passing through the labyrinth of the unknown, you have tamed your fear of the unknown. You have earned the blue fire, and it has consumed you. This does not mean that Kanoka and Makuta thought. It is true that the flame has consumed your old fearful self, but you have been reborn as the Jahurungi, the true map maker. This was the secret I would have given you if you had faced me. The meaning of the word Jahurungi. I'm going to write that word down, because it might be a deep word. So, the two deep words I know might be Jahurungi and Vaiku. So, keep going with this dialogue though. Okay, yeah, it gives me it now. Okay, so Jahurungi is a deep word, a name of great importance. Make sure to memorize it or write it down. And I just wrote it down. I did as I was told. Because you faced an even greater challenge than mine, I will offer you the chance to unlock the mysteries of other deep words, but you must pass the challenge. And this is kind of goofy because defeating Kanoka may have been indeed more challenging than defeating Surkahi. However, it was definitely a much shorter fight. The Surkahi fight doesn't seem to be particularly challenging, but it does seem to be very... I'm trying to think of the right word here. Protracted. There we go. We will fight in rounds of 3 minutes long. Each round will have different rules. When the time's up, a new round will be randomly chosen. Be warned, this very realm can attack you. There are 7 types of rounds that you are randomly faced with. I've only seen 3 so far. The rounds keep coming until you have defeated me. So it's basically, you don't run out of rounds. You can just keep going and going until you've worn him all the way down. Each round has a hidden puzzle. If you solve this puzzle and cross a special maze in time, you will get a new deep word and unlock a special ability you can use in this challenge. Before you continue, you should know that by defeating Kanoka, you have unlocked a new ability, a secondary fire option for the blue fire staff. Sorry, I already know about this, so I'm going to skip this line. Okay. Oh, it's arrow keys, I forgot. So basically, lots of shifts and lots of space, basically. And try to do damage to Surkahi. He's gonna do damage to me, but I am bumbling with the controls here. There we go. Damage. I have the healing mask on, that's why it doesn't really... He doesn't do a lot of damage in particular, and because I have the healing mask on, like, I just heal. So, I'm not super worried about him doing damage to me. Basically just this very long beatdown. Okay, so, yeah, I originally wasn't going to do this, just because it was going to take so long, and I didn't want to, like, invest the time. But I think what convinced me otherwise was, well, the person who introduced me to this game did suggest that I beat it, and two, I got some comments on essentially the game designer for this, whose name is oddly not in the opening credits. Maybe it was in the closing credits. That would be. I think I call him Ochilam. I don't know if that's the correct way to pronounce that screen name. It's like no shame in having an impronounceable screen name though, because I have my screen name essentially does not have a pronunciation. The person who, again, introduced me to this game, that person pronounced instinctively upon seeing it Skilligator. That was it. Even though skill is never spelled out inside any of the letters in my screen name, it's just that person looked at it and thought, oh, that says Skilligator. Anyway. He left some comments on some of the my earlier recordings because he was working on redoing some of the mechanics and boss fights and so on. And so we actually searched YouTube for some gameplay footage and see if anybody actually played. Oh, we have the same round again. Cool. I like this one because this one I can actually do damage to Surkahi. So, I got some feedback from one of the original creators of the game. And he had somewhat similar takeaways to kind of what I had. And that was that... Oh, he's going to heal himself, isn't he? Yeah, okay. Many of the boss fights in the game, basically you just hit the boss over and over and over and over again until the boss is defeated. And there isn't a lot of creativity with the mechanics. That being said, it's not necessarily what I complained the most about. Wasn't that that you didn't have to do something clever in order to defeat the boss. It was that it's sort of like there was no feedback as to what you were doing was the correct thing to do to defeat the boss. So you would just keep hitting the boss with your melee attack, and there'd be no health bar or anything, and no staging to indicate that the boss was actually being damaged and was losing health and was not just immune to your attacks. And so you're basically just kind of flying blind, hitting it over and over again, hoping that it was doing something, which always seemed like an awful lot of hits. And it's only probably there wasn't really that bad. It just seemed like a lot of hits you needed to do because you didn't have any feedback for the hits you were making. So, because you were kind of like in the dark, you just kind of like hoping you're just kind of waiting very impatiently for some feedback that the boss was actually responding to your hits you were applying to it. So it's kind of unnerving boss thing. I'm somewhat not a fan of bosses where there's something clever you have to do, but there isn't a whole lot of hints about what that thing is supposed to be. My favorite example of that being the final boss, Anua boss in the Legend of Matanui Alpha, where basically you used your glyph to make rock rain down from the ceiling, and while the rock was raining, during that like little interval, that's where you have to hit the boss with your projectile weapon. Just right in that interval. And it's not very clear that that's what you have to do. Right. And it tricks me up so I forget how to do it. It keeps tricking me up. And there should be some hints, like, as to what exactly you do. It makes it, like, hard to kind of alleviate that whole, how are you supposed to think of that problem? So this one, I don't think you can damage Surkahi. The only thing you can really do is just run around in a circle and try to avoid being hit by the octahedrons. And in this one, somewhere there's going to be a challenge that opens up where you can do the maze run. But, Chilam, if you're watching this, whoops, I accidentally went into the menu. I accidentally healed myself, that was silly. This is a lot of work that this is honestly really good. It's just that the way, you know, my mindset is, and people like me tend to talk, is it's really easy to kind of point out the negative things in something, because they kind of stick in your head more. And they're more specific. Whereas like the positive things about the game, they're harder to sort of point out because they tend to be less specific and more difficult to articulate in words what I mean, right? So it's much easier. It's just easier to criticize things than it is to compliment things. So just keep that in mind. There was a lot that I enjoyed about this, but a lot of what I enjoyed about this is very difficult to articulate. Thank you for taking the time to actually put comments as well. It was kind of like this, like, meeting a celebrity kind of moment. I didn't think, like, this Let's Play would possibly make it back to somebody like Ochilo. Like, I was just like, whoa, it was kind of like a starstruck moment when I got those comments. I was like, I got like super nervous. I was like, if I knew he was gonna watch this, I would have been a bit more, I would have, like, put more effort into the commentary or something. Like, I can't, like, get it. How do I get it here? Whatever. I took a lot of damage there trying to interact with that. I don't think that's the right one to interact with, too. So, I don't think I have the power. That might be the one where it makes the shield. I don't have the power yet to make the shield. Yeah. No, another blue octahedra might show up later. Yeah, really, it was like, how boring is this? There's no combat. I'm just basically just avoiding damage. That's all that's happening here. Okay, let's see if we can do some damage this time. Nope, it's just more of this. Okay. Now we just gotta keep going. Anyway, since I actually managed to get enough reach with this that Ochilam actually found it and commented on it, that kind of motivated me to take the time to actually finish. So I'm gonna make an attempt at actually finishing. It's gonna take a while though. It's gonna be kind of a long and kind of a very protracted video, a very protracted Let's Play. As for this mysterious person I keep mentioning that brought up, like, introduced this game to me, that I keep, like, declining to name. The reason why I keep declining to name this person is that I tend to be, right now I'm gravitating to being one of those YouTubers that doesn't show their face or their name. And it's just kind of a disembodied voice. Because in certain circumstances, I'm not comfortable with doing that yet. If I say, like, who I knew that introduced me to BIONICLE Paracosmos, I could potentially accidentally blow that open and identify myself in ways I'm not ready to do yet. So, yeah. But that may change in the future, so it might show up who that person is. So if you're doing a recording like this where I'm just doing like lots of just raw footage of gameplay that doesn't have a lot of suspense to it, like this, you know, it would behoove me to figure out something to talk about. And I tried to come up with some ideas, and one of them was, oh goodness, kind of like look up the list of most common job interview questions and try to actually answer some of these. Just so that if you're curious about me, just because you're curious about me for, I don't know, whatever reason, because you just happen to be watching one of my videos, I could say some stuff. So you kind of understand what perspective I come from when I comment on games. So, first one is kind of is pretty much always say a little bit about yourself. And I don't know really where to start there. I haven't rehearsed this or planned this out in any way. So, come to me. So just a little bit of information. So, due to my want to maintain some anonymity, I can't give all of the really specific details about my education. Oh, there it is. Education and career. But, oh, that didn't do what I expected to do. Like, but what I will say is that I have 2 undergraduate majors, 1 graduate major, so what that means is 2 bachelor's and 1 master's degree, and 1 undergraduate minor in various different STEM fields. So I was one of those like STEM people. And I have been, and I do work full-time, so I am a full-time person, like a 9-to-5 office worker, cubicle desk job person, in work that is actually related to what I got my degree in. So you should say I am blessed that I'm one of those people that managed to accomplish that, which in the United States today isn't necessarily guaranteed for you. So basically, I am a STEM worker. Something I will bring up somewhat quite often here is what my contentment. Am I satisfied with that? And how that kind of affects me on a day-to-day. And I've kind of ranted about this sometime in the past, but that is that a lot of science and technology is very consumerist and iterative. I guess what I mean by that is the iPhone didn't necessarily make people's lives better. Basically, it was sold by convincing people that they needed it, not because they actually needed it. And the same thing with all things like smart devices. When it comes to computation, it's very iterative. So basically, the next generation is just the previous one, just a little bit faster, right? And how you sell the product is not necessarily by making something that people need, but by making something that you convince them that they need. In other words, I actually feel that STEM is done. I actually have no desire, at least in the computational world, I personally have no desire for a more powerful computing device than what exists now, for a price that's less than what we have. There are people that do supercomputing stuff that are more versed in those fields. Are those good or bad? Those might be bad. They might do damage to me. I'm not sure. They might disagree with me, but a lot of like the tech world is just vanity. It's pure and solid. It's pure vanity to me. Now, another kind of blessed thing about me, my job isn't in like in the consumer electronics world, or consumer products world. So what I do is a little bit more disruptive or emergent, and a little more R&D than that. So, but still beyond that, because what I'm working on, I really don't have any confidence that it will actually make it into the world and actually do something good, due to its nature. I still kind of feel like what I'm doing, is kind of like make work, just because I need a job, just because I need money in order to do the other things I want to do in life. And it doesn't, and it's not something that's really necessary. It actually has the value, and has the same amount of value that I get paid to do it. So, the reason why I'm a stim junkie is because that's where, I guess, my genetic predispositions are. So my childhood, I showed like a oh, I don't know how that happened, but I'll heal, don't worry. Fine, I'll spin some food. There, done. Okay. I don't know what happened there. They made me lose so much health unexpectedly. So trying to get back to what I was saying. Something like, this is going to sound kind of Asian momish, but being a doctor, it's easier, like, when you go to work every day, to really understand what exactly you're doing for people and what your value is. Now, as I said, it's a whole, like, genetic predisposition thing. It's what I just happen to be talented in. Early on, my immediate family and me tend to identify that doing something like being a doctor wasn't really for me, because I didn't have the people skills, nor did I have, like, the ability to kind of stand gore that you would expect a doctor to have. I had other strengths besides that, and so I went a different route, but that's something that kind of affects my state of mind from day to day. That's kind of a generally, and I'm 25 years old at the time, so it's kind of generally, I live in the United States, of course, I won't say exactly where, so it's kind of generally what I do. What I do in my spare time, when I'm not doing my work, is one, I had this idea because I was one of the tutors in college, and I actually, I had a small little part-time job with the department, from which I got one of my degrees, to do some walk-in tutoring. So some like one-on-one instruction on all of the core courses for that particular program. And I was able to do this because I was kind of in the in crowd with the, like, essentially, it was almost like a fraternity, like the three Greek letter group. They call it an honor society instead of a fraternity, but it operated very much like a fraternity, that was in charge of this thing, and my grades were good enough, and I was able to do well enough on an interview to do this. And this got me into like thinking about the whole concept of how exactly do you explain these concepts to people, and how do you teach people? So I kind of got into like the headspace, I started thinking of, paying mind to what it meant to teach, and I got this idea that some of the topics that I'd explain over and over again, because there's always like the things that come up all the time when you do tutoring, to try to like distill those lectures up like down into like these video lectures and actually post them on YouTube. Because why not, right? I kind of like had them memorized by now. One of those being how to do a convolution using the backwards method. That just shows up over and over again. I'm just gonna go learn what like my degrees are now, fortunately. What does it mean for a system to be causal, for it to be stable, for it to be, I'll come back for that. For it to be linear, for it to be time invariant, and what the proofs are for how to do the proofs are for that. How to do node voltage, how to do mesh current. These sorts of things. I can't see my health, which is kind of weird. I don't know what's going on there. Okay, now I can start seeing my health. These are things that come up kind of over and over again. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to make lectures about these and post them on YouTube. And so my first trial run at this was a lecture video about Fermat's principle. And you can still find this video on YouTube. It's under a channel called Sked Math. Capital S-C-E-D, capital M-A-T-H. I don't know if this video is very good or not, but it's the first YouTube video I decided to make. The thing is, though, although I was kind of excited at first to make these YouTube videos, my interest in making them somehow kind of died after I kind of started the process. It's somewhat laborious because you have to think up example problems to work out. Because that's generally the best way to teach is you start with an initial explanation, but then you work out a bunch of examples, and you don't want to do that silly thing where you work out examples in the lecture that are really easy, and then the homework problems are like way harder than the ones you worked out in the lecture, so that the ones you worked out in the lecture provide no good reference for the homework. That's a very infamous teaching fail. So you got to have a lot of example problems that work up in difficulty from easy to very difficult, the entire range. And basically making these example problems is the where all the work, kind of the labor comes into making these kind of videos. You can copy them out of a textbook, but I always got nervous about doing that because I was worried about all kinds of ethics issues, not necessarily involving copyright so much, although that is one of them, but also students happening to find the exact same problem that's in their homework in my video and copying my video. Now, because I'm not a student at a university anymore, I can't really get in trouble for that, I presume, but it's kind of like sleazy, so I always try to make up unique ones to make those videos. So they're kind of a lot of work and I lost interest. But while I was doing YouTube stuff, like while I was doing this, I said I might as well do some, like, Let's Plays of some Bionicle games, because I just kind of always wanted to do that. It just kind of seemed like something fun to do. So, and the ones I really wanted to do were The Legend of Matanui, because there's a lot of good Let's Plays of Legend of Matanui out now, but like when I first came up with this idea, there really wasn't, despite how I mean, you'd think there would be, considering how famous that game is in the Bionicle community. Vnog, just because I like playing Vnog, recording playing Vnog is just fun for me to do. Minog 2, because that's probably my favorite Bionicle game of all time. And lastly, Minol, the Metanui online game, which was partly inspired by LJ wanting there to be a walkthrough. Now, that didn't really turn out so well. I'll explain why in a minute. It turned out somebody else beat me to that. But I wanted to do sort of a walkthrough of Minol. The thing is, though, the user _Takua who used to host the site, well, it takes some money to keep a site hosted, right? He decided to take it down. And before he did, he asked the Biomedia Project whether or not they wanted to preserve it. And the Biomedia Project said that his email to them got lost in spam or something. And so they didn't find it until later. And they made a desperate Twitter post saying, anybody who knows _Takua, contact him and tell him, we were interested in preserving Minol. And I don't know whatever happened to that, but the files might have gotten deleted or something, but Minol is now taken down. The Wayback Machine, which is just archive.org, has the page there, but you need to make a login. So Minol requires a database, and it appears it doesn't have that database back in. So you can't actually play the game on the web archive. You can just kind of look at the page. It's not actually playable. And somebody in one of the the comments in one of the chats in one of TTV's podcast live stream things said that it was on Flashpoint. However, I had the latest version of Flashpoint at the time and also a few months later, and I couldn't find it on Flashpoint. So Minol was lost to me. I'm not going to be able to do Minol, but I managed to do Vinog, Minog 2, and the Legend of Matanui. In fact, I did the Legend of Matanui a couple times. The alpha and the beta twice and rebuilt once. So I actually got to do those things and actually make those Let's Plays. And once I kind of caught the bug for making Let's Plays of Bionicle games, I just kind of kept going. And so, this got kind of addicting to me, I just kept doing it. Even after I got through the games I originally wanted to do. I missed again. So, I'm going through essentially all of them now. And this is basically taken over all of my YouTube time, and the original Sked Math lecture project has been completely abandoned. There are 4 videos, I believe, up on that channel. Is there a way to cancel the space? I think I forgot how to do that. Cancel the space. There's a way to interact with that octahedron. I know there is. Oh, more octahedrons. But they're pretty old and I haven't gone back to it. But that's kind of like the thing that started me doing YouTube, but it kind of evolved into me completely abandoning that. And I made these Bionicle Let's Plays. And then I thought, I like Hood units. I'll explain what that means later. So, I'll make videos of Let's Plays of Hood unit games, because I like those too. So then I've been branching out into that. And I'll talk about branching out later. So, Hood unit, it's basically short for Who Done It. It's the kind of game, the kind of thing where somebody committed a murder, and you're putting the clues together to figure out who did it. It comes from a joke somebody made to me in middle school at a church function, where usually when you write out who done it, you use 2 N's in a row to emphasize that the U in the done is a short U. But in this case, whoever wrote it out on the wrote it out as with a single U, so it spelled out Hood unit, and that's where that came from. And basically, the function this was like a little church function in middle school, and what you did is this little party where you would eat dinner, and while you were eating dinner, you would be given these pamphlets. And on the pamphlet, the pamphlet described to you like a character, and you would actually know what character you were going to get beforehand, so you knew how to dress for the dinner. And this pamphlet on each new set of pages would give you new facts that you would learn about the case in each quote-unquote round. So how the rounds would work is you would read information about the case for the next round, and then you would have this conversation where somewhere in the conversation you had to exposit some of the facts that you learned in that round. Some of the facts that you learned were just for you, just private, for only your eyes only, and some of the new facts that you would learn in each round you were supposed to share with the whole group in the conversation part. And in the end, you would try to be the first to guess who did it, and who did the crime. Now, it turns out that I only did one of these, and at the time, I was the person who did it. And usually it's easier for the person who did it to know they did it than the others, and you typically don't put out a guess because you kind of don't want to incriminate yourself, even though you're a fictional character. You don't want to, like, betray your fictional character. But the way the pamphlets were made was, it told you the answer at the end, but the answer wasn't written on the inside of the last page, the back side of the last page of the book. It was written on the inside of the back cover, if you know what I mean. The problem with that is if you accidentally, like, open that back cover, it will immediately show you the answer. If they put it, like, on the back side of the last page, it would be a little bit harder to accidentally spoil yourself. So I accidentally spoiled myself halfway through, because I actually knew the answer long before I was supposed to, even as the person who did it. Anyway, I always like those kind of things. Oddly, though, the demographic for that is kind of lopsided, because it seems to me that those famous Hood Unit games tend to be of what I would call Eastern origin. They tend to be Japanese. I don't really know of any good Western Hood Unit games. If anybody does, you can comment that in the comments if you're listening this far in, which you are probably not, because this is a very long rant. So those tend to be Danganronpa, which, yes, TTV just so happened to play. That's how I learned about it. That's how I learned about Ace Attorney as well as Ace Attorney. Things like that. Yeah, I need to learn about some of them that aren't Japanese, because I'm going to accidentally label myself as a weeb just because it turns out these mysteries tend to be Japanese. And some good mystery writers like Kutaro Uchikoshi tend to be Japanese. Anyway, so I tend to branch out into that. And branching out is always a problem. Can be something that's, there's like I know of specific YouTubers. I'm sort of apprehensive about saying what they are, because it's kind of like reveals the trash I watch. But I have to give an example in order to illustrate this point. One of them is called Philion, right? I don't recommend you watch this YouTuber. This YouTuber is trash. But, just to give you an example, he used to make videos about fitness, which I'm sort of into, and he would make these kind of, I don't know if they're really necessary videos, about people who claim they weren't taking performance-enhancing drugs, but really were. Call them natty or not videos. The thing is, though, he started saying that has a ceiling, right? And he wanted to become a professional YouTuber, and he was making videos with the express purpose of making money. And so, in order to try to do that, try to get more popular, he decided to branch out and make videos about all kinds of weird celebrity stuff that I don't understand. And so I used to watch every video that he came out with, which I regret now, but I used to do that, and now I watch none. I haven't watched a single video from him in, years. Because he branched out into a topic that I had no interest in, from a topic that originally did, right? So, if all of the people who subscribe to your channel and regularly watch your videos do so because they like watching BIONICLE Let's Plays, then you start making these weird, Japan game videos, you can kind of lose that, entire audience, essentially. You make that audience kind of mad at you. I guess, those are negative purely. Okay. But the thing is, though, I'm not doing it because I'm trying to, make a bunch of money off of YouTube necessarily. It's because I just like that stuff. So, I don't want to be like Tanner Fishies, who basically made a bunch of videos about Ninjago, and he claimed he never really liked Ninjago. And he really just did it because that's what he got a lot of views for, and he had this established audience that known him for it, right? And he was continuing to milk that established audience for views. I don't want to be that kind of person, right? So I do want to make videos that I like. If I like it, I don't want to just not make the videos. Whoops. So I do that at the risk of making some people mad at me. that's kind of where I kind of went. So that's kind of what I do is I make videos about Bionicle games and mystery games, essentially. Now, being somewhat of a computer hardware buff, I did make those control videos. But that wasn't because I necessarily like games like that. I was just trying to do some hardware buff stuff. So that was a lot of talking about one of the first like stuff I do in my spare time. The next thing I do, I do have like some fitness stuff in my garage. I have a squat stand, a barbell, and some plates, some dumbbells, right? So I do tend to lift, so to speak. The thing is, though, if you were to look at me, you would know. There's no way that you would know. And because that's not my number one priority right now, my lifting isn't very consistent. I don't have a consistent training schedule. So it's kind of haphazard. But I do have that equipment, and I do use it like at least twice a week. And attempt to try to get stronger. So I am kind of interested in strength. I also tend to be kind of a fan of certain sports like arm wrestling and strongman. Mostly because I'm like a fan of the people that do the sports. I'm someone in my like immediate family is like this too, where we don't really become fans of sports unless the people that are playing the sport are someone who we're interested in their story. I remember when my dad only watched the Super Bowl once, really, in my lifetime that I know of. And he did so because the Cardinals were playing against the Steelers that year, and it was the last year of the quarterback Kurt Warner. And my dad really liked the story of the quarterback Kurt Warner of the Cardinals, and so because of that, he actually had interest in watching the game and watching Kurt Warner be a quarterback that year. It had nothing to do with the team, the Cardinals, really, nor had anything to do with the tradition of watching the Super Bowl. It was just he was interested in that person. So it's kind of like, I kind of like watching strongman just because I kind of like the people like Brian Shaw, which I know of because of Furious Pete, ironically, weirdly. I kind of like watching him compete. And I like watching people like Devin Larratt compete, so that's why I kind of like watching some of those sports. And because of kind of my interest in watching some of those sports, that's kind of what kind of got me into doing some strong stuff. But whatever. Another thing that I'm really serious about is trying to get really good at playing bassoon. And there are some YouTube videos on my channel that you can kind of find some like recordings of bassoon. Not really good recordings because they're done on a large diaphragm mic that I talk into, which is not really how you want to record a musical instrument. You want to use a pencil mic for that, generally. So that's something that I'm actually trying very furiously and trying to get a lot better at because I want to pass a certain audition. And to take my next steps in the progress of my quote-unquote bassoon career. So that's the next thing that I'm into. And I also go hiking sometimes, but I only do it like once every couple of years. And by hiking, I mean like actual like serious hiking, like multi-day hikes with a backpack and a tent and all that stuff. And my immediate family, when I was a child, tended to be kind of, I don't know what you call it, outdoorsy, or whatever you want, or whatever. They like to, they like to fish and do riverboating and so on. What I personally really like to do is mountain biking, like riding a bike down a trail. Was something that I have a lot of fun with as a child. I don't really do it so much anymore because I don't really feel like it's like kind of a lot of effort to get it going, and it's not something I really feel like I can make a lot of progress in. But it's something I really enjoyed when I was a kid. The thing is, though, I personally, if we go like a couple generations back, my mom's side of the family really likes to hunt. I personally don't have very much experience with that. The thing is, though, I don't really have the oomph to really spend the effort to start like a trip doing riverboat stuff, and I actually really don't like fishing. I'm weirdly, ironically good at it. Or just really lucky. I remember a time when me and my father were casting right next to each other. and I caught, I think it's 8 fish, and he caught 0. And there's no particular reason why that would be the case, as they're both using the same kind of bait and casting in the same general area, the same general distance. It was like pure luck. Accidentally hit the healing button. But I don't like it, it's very boring to me. But I know how to. One more thing with the hobbies, yes, you know, because I'm making this video, I did actually like to play with Lego a lot. In fact, I recently purchased oh, there's the hole. Let me fall in there intentionally. You have injured me 2,000 points, but this is not over yet. You must injure me another 1,000 points before you can win my challenge. Okay. Oh, is this like the Zactan thing from the Torn Escape? We hit the platforms. Oh, do those injure me? I understand this, but whatever, we're gonna keep going around. Oh, whoa. Come on, man, healing mask, kill me. Heal. Oh, phew. This is nasty. But I think I kind of regret buying it, because I can't figure out how to store it anywhere, and it wasn't necessarily the most fun thing ever. So yes, I do buy Lego sometimes, but I'm sort of like going into a second Dark Age after that. I won't buy another Lego product for a very, very long time. So I think that's the end with my hobbies and everything. So kind of like about the whole materialism and stuff. Most of my discontents are, I actually don't own my own home right now. What I do is I'm essentially house sitting, like a house that my parents want to live in basically when they retire. Particularly my father. And so they haven't sold it yet, they're kind of hanging on to it. And I'm just kind of sitting here kind of occupying it while they live somewhere else when my dad works some other place. Kind of an interesting situation, which means I kind of like have a whole like family home to live in. But it's not mine. The kind of the disadvantage to that is that it's kind of like when it comes to like being an eligible bachelor sort of thing, having my own home is not a very good, not having my own home is kind of a problem. And so that's primarily what I'm trying to accomplish next, essentially. Where I live, though, where my employment is very expensive. Extremely expensive, actually. And so it's kind of not very, it's very difficult to save up enough money to do that, even if, even the down payment, would be difficult to obtain and be able to, and the loan will be a very long duration. So, That's kind of like my next goal. I also want a contrabassoon, of course. I'd be very happy if a contrabassoon just dropped from the sky. I like, day after day, it takes a lot of willpower and ability to resist temptation to just go out and just suddenly buy one, just like right now. The thing is, though, if you want to be a contrabassoon player in a major orchestra, which first you need a degree in music performance first before you do trying this stuff out, but it's required that you be extremely good enough bassoon player, a good enough bassoon player to get into the orchestra as well, because composers don't write a contrabassoon part for every movement of every symphony and for every piece. They only write it in when they want it. For example, Beethoven 5, the contrabassoonist, Beethoven only wrote a contrabassoon part for the fourth movement out of 4. And oftentimes, what the contrabassoonist does when he's not playing his contrabassoon is he plays the bassoon. He plays a part we call fourth bassoon. And so, essentially you have to double. You cannot just play contrabassoon exclusively. That role in an orchestra just does not exist. All contrabassoonists are bassoonists. So if you want to be a contrabassoonist, you got to be a really good bassoonist. And so that's basically where you got to go first. And if I can't pass like this community band audition, or community orchestra audition on bassoon, I feel like there's no point in going out and buying the contrabassoon yet. So I gotta, like, logically, I gotta hold back on doing it. So, okay. That's not actually everything about myself I can say, but, no, I'll talk a little bit more. So, here's some, like, kind of goofy stuff. Elementary school, for me, is, like, a part of my life that I really, would really, like, just erase from my history. Like, I really hate how I was back then. I was someone who would do things like sit in the back of the bus just to overhear kind of all the bad kids say dirty things. Like, I was that kind of person. So and that all kind of worked itself out by the time I got to middle school. But it's definitely big regret I have. But the elementary school system that I went to did something kind of stupid. And it went something like this. They had this test that they would give every second grader. And this test was kind of like an IQ test. So it wasn't really designed to figure out how much you knew. It was designed to figure out how well you could think, basically. It was a bunch of puzzles. And there was 3 categories to it. One was verbal intelligence, so how good are you with words? They specifically said the first part is about words. The second part was math problems. So and it was meant to test how good you were at mathematical reasoning. The third part was visualization problems. So, and they call it spatial nonverbal. Basically, how well can you visualize things? And if you got above, well, at the time it was, I don't remember what the percentage at the time was, but at some point it was up to 97%. If you're like in the top 3% on any one of these 3 categories, then you go into the special program where they'd accelerate you. And this was an effort to prevent, like, the bright kids from getting bored, essentially. And this would accelerate you in all disciplines, despite you having a top 3% score in only one of them. For example, if you got like a 99% in one category, but only like 20% in the other 2, you still ended up in this program. So even if you really did really bad in the math part, if you did really good in the verbal part, your math would still be really accelerated. This is just what they did. I don't know if this was necessarily fair, that they had this test that you have to pass this test to get into this, and it did what it did. But anyway, I like the acceleration aspect of things. I don't necessarily like the whole, how they determined it. What did this do for me? Well, this is a really good thing for me because it introduced me to a concept that I really wouldn't know about otherwise. You see, most students, generally, in the United States, generally take calculus their senior year of high school. There are some that don't take it until they go to college, and that's not good. Is what I have to say about that. It's really something that you should be taking about your senior year of high school if you want to go into a field where you're generally going to have to know calculus, if you're a career, right? If you don't, then some people do it still anyway to try to get a better chance of going into college, but in that concept, I do find it kind of silly. But if you want to be a STEM person, you generally want to take calculus in your 4th year of high school. Because of this program that they stuck me in, because of how well I did on this weird IQ test, I learned about something, and that was you can take community college courses when you're in high school. And now that I know this, and now I know a lot of students do this, I'm going to encourage my children, if they exist, to try to do this as well. Because high school, in my opinion, was very like a demeaning experience. I felt like I was very disrespected by the whole system. Whereas when I took college courses, I felt like the courses were kind of respecting me a bit more. There are some exceptions. I did take when I was a senior in college, I took a laboratory class from the biology department, and it was meant for freshmen because I wanted to learn biology stuff, and it was kind of like the next step in finishing all like the almost elementary biology that I didn't finish when I was in high school. And so the thing is, though, this class was taught like it was meant for freshmen, and I was a senior, and it didn't really. It kind of talked down to the students quite a bit. The material in the class was very good, and I'm glad I took the class and learned the material that I did, but the style in which it was taught I found was kind of condescending, in my personal opinion. But anyway, and so you might have a much better time, and you much have a better time enjoying school if, you know, after your high school classes are done, after school you go and take like maybe one. You really don't have time to take more than one, but one community college class. And that will give you like a better impression about the whole education experience. And if you're not taking a community college class, I would have liked to have gotten a job in high school, and that's something that I didn't have a job in high school is something that I somewhat regret. Like I should have been able to, like they didn't actually work for like local burger place and actually earn some money in high school, which I thought would have been, if I were to kind of go back in time and do it all over again, it would be something that I would have done. So that's kind of like my recommendation for the audience. Take community college classes in high school, and you might be happier if you do that. And I did do that a little bit, but not as much as I wanted to. Another bizarre thing, but just I don't think it means anything, but just if you're curious, on the stupid IQ test thing. For the verbal part, I got slightly below average. It got in the 40s of percent. On the logical part, I got slightly above average. I was in the 50s of percent. And for the visualization part, the spatial part, I got 99%. And I will concur that test was really easy for me, that part of it. So the only thing I remember from it, though, was these puzzles where you would have it start with the square piece of paper, and they would then fold the paper a certain way. Then you would punch holes in the paper after folding it. And then you would unfold the paper, and they would ask you, where are the holes? Now, this to you probably sounds pretty trivial, and to me it was trivial, but apparently for second graders, to some people this is really hard, I'd guess. I mean, I can't imagine not being able to tell where the holes were after unfolding the paper, but apparently some people struggle with this. Anyway. The other weird thing was, I'm extremely fidgety, so I have a tendency to flick my fingers around my face violently, and sometimes rub my hands on my pants violently, and kind of snap my finger over and over again violently, as well as rock back and forth in my chair. The reason, and my elementary school teacher, my 6th grade teacher, saw this, and her opinion was, oh, he might have autism. And so, she brought in the, occupational therapist to see if I should be diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And the occupational therapist said, no, he doesn't have autism spectrum disorder. He has a sort of a nervous system that doesn't, at idle, send as much signals to his brain as usual. And so, the brain wants to kind of fidget the body and move it around such that it can kind of remind itself that, basically my limbs exist. Because ordinarily they don't send enough information to my brain, and there's some name for it. And it's correlated with having more difficulty than other kids doing things like catch. And that is true. Actually, I have a hard time doing things like playing sports where I have to catch a ball. I have a very difficult time catching things. As I got older, I got not as bad. I mean, I won an egg toss contest, well, not dropping it once. So I can catch things somewhat nowadays, but that was something that you would notice about me as a child, was I had a hard time catching things. That's where some of my violent fidgets come from. And this is something that my father in particular gave me a very hard time about, because he thought, his argument was, when he tries to get a job and, go about ordinary life, that people would really get weirded out by this and have a hard time, basically, they just kind of get the EBGBs, because it looks kind of strange. It actually looks a lot like somebody who has autism spectrum disorder. But unfortunately for him, it's not something, it's kind of involuntary. I don't actually realize I'm doing it until a few seconds in, and it's extremely difficult to defeat. However, I am doing a little bit better nowadays. We had this little nickname for it, we called it flapping. It's a nickname for my severe fidgeting that I would do, and somewhat still do. Okay. And if you're worried about religion and politics and stuff, I am a fundamentalist Christian. That's what I am. And so a lot of my commentary on things stems from a worldview that stems from that. So that would be that although mankind has the knowledge of good and evil, which means they have a conscience, so we have an inherent knowledge of what is the preferential will of God and what isn't. Ordinarily that conscience gets bruised and defeated, and the state of nature is to do evil continually. So that actually bleeds into my commentary that I do about games and stuff. So I guess we'll go on to the next common interview question. And that is kind of, what is your greatest weakness? Personally, in me doing my day job, I feel like my biggest I have several weaknesses, and I don't know which is necessarily the greatest. One of them is that I have a very wondery mind. Like, instead of working on the, like, basically code I'm supposed to be writing, my mind will wander and start thinking about philosophy. Like, I'll start thinking about weird things like controversial things like abortion and capitalism and worldviews and the state of nature and plans for my life, while instead of actually like locking down and focusing on what I need to do at the time, right? I'm very spaceman-y, essentially. Very daydreamy and very spaceman-y. And it's a lot worse if I'm consuming at the time like a really good story, because then I'll be thinking about that story as opposed to the work I'm trying to do. So basically, I have a hard time focusing. Is my biggest issue. So if I'm playing like a really good game, that stuff about that really good game I'm playing is going to occupy my head. And it's difficult to compartmentalize and go into the work mood. Another thing, another thing that really hampers me in the workplace is that I'm extremely shy. In fact, I am so shy that when I was in elementary school, I would wet my pants at school a lot. And for the sole reason that I was too nervous to ask the teacher if I could go use the restroom. Even though I would know intellectually that that teacher would say yes if I just asked. And a lot of the time, because the teachers would know this, they would pick up on this, they would make a rule. It says you, I'm not gonna say my name here, but Studulator, if you need to go to the restroom, don't bother to ask, just get up and go. Which is, of course, what I do as an adult. In fact, it's still weird to me how we make elementary school kids ask. I mean, it's very strange. That's how it should be by default. But I was still like, I would forget that, and I would still be like, I was too nervous, literally, to get up and go by myself without asking. But it was quite ridiculous, and that kind of compounded with the flapping, sort of made it so that I got bullied quite a bit when I was in elementary school. As a result of those things. So because of this, I also have this huge aversion to get negative feedback for my work, especially if I feel like my work is incomplete. So what will happen to me is, I'll get assigned some task, and then I might kind of be struggling with the task. And instead of quickly going to my boss and saying, okay, I think this is going to take longer than you think it's going to be, I'm struggling with this and there's why, which is what you should do, I will just try, like, I don't want to go to my boss and present something until I have a product. And so I'll kind of stare at it, and because I'm kind of lost, I won't get done, but then because of that delay, I feel like there's higher expectation that I come up and present with more when I talk to my boss next time, because it's been more time since I got the assignment, right? And so that pressure builds up that I actually produce something to present the next time I talk to him. And so I will makes me more reserved, and by the time it finally catches up to me, I go, yeah, I've been working on this really slowly because I've gotten stuck and stuff, and it's really embarrassing, right? I just don't turn around and just immediately talk to him right away. So, and this is basically just because I'm kind of shy, right? I'm just not very talkative. And I really can't stand negative feedback. I just can't stand the negative feedback. I want to have something that I'm like sure is going to get positive feedback before I go for feedback. I just had that psychological problem, and that causes me a lot of problems in the workplace, and is basically, that's another big weakness of mine. I didn't hit the 0 in time. There's no health progress, though, in that part. Okay. I have to go and I have to do it again, because I failed. I've recorded for an hour already. There's no, like, feedback, though, on the health bar. I can't... I have to go again. I can't just end recording. That's how you just equip some. That's how you just equip something else. Okay. Let's begin. Oh, okay. Okay, so it spawns you back here. Cool. Those are my two big weaknesses. What are your greatest strengths? Well, as I said, I do have I guess I don't know if I'm gonna call it whip smartness or brightness, but I have sort of like really good intuition. I'm sort of like the lazy gifted kid. Why is this like not starting? That's about it, really. Is this a glitch? It's a glitch, okay. Yeah, it doesn't, like, trigger. Let me try to do this. I'm gonna have to end out of this and reload from that save, which is going to get me back to the beginning of the challenge. Fortunately for me. Okay, so we're going to continue to go down this list. This is going to be kind of goofy. We'll get through the dialogue first, because I don't really care here. Okay. Then, let's save right here. Never mind, okay. So yeah, I have to start all the way from the top. Great. Because it glitched out. Which it warned me it would do that, so... Thanks for the warning that... Well, I don't know what to do about said warning. I didn't restock on food, so... Just don't lose too much health, I guess. Okay, now I can finally go down this list. So, walk me through your resume. That's irrelevant for what I'm doing right now, so I'm not going to bother walking through my resume. How did you hear about this position? Again, this is irrelevant for what I'm trying to do right now, so that doesn't matter. Probably kind of goofy though. How'd you, and so that's the one question you can be honest about usually, is how did you hear about this position? Why do you want to work for this company? And that was always a really silly question, because I might have applied to a lot of companies, and the reason why I applied to those companies is because I saw that they posted a job description that I thought I fit, that I thought I could get, right? I thought I could get this job, I interviewed for it. basically the answer is you posted a job that I thought that I could get. That's why I went to work for you. That's why I applied, right? That's why I did apply. Where I want to work for you, I haven't really figured that out yet. Part of the interview is not only are you interviewing me, but I'm interviewing you. So I actually don't know that answer right now. Every once in a while, you may encounter actually a company where you actually sort of believe in what they make. You actually think their products are really cool. But for the vast majority of us people who are looking for a job, that's not the case. And it's kind of an unreasonable expectation to have for an incoming candidate. Why do you want this job? Well, because essentially it's a job that I think I'm qualified to do and actually uses like my education and experience. Like it's like something that it's like the best paying, highest ranking job, or maybe not even, that I can get, given my skill set, education, or experience. That's why I want that particular job. I mean, it's always the same answer. I don't know exactly what they're looking for. Why should we hire you? Well, the answer is always because I can do the job, and I can do this job because of this experience and this education, essentially. That's it. Which is basically what the resume is about, which basically the answer is almost like, read my resume. Like, why are you asking me now? You already, like, one of these questions is walk me through your resume. Basically, the answer to that and why should we hire you is the same thing, usually. He's going to heal it. Oh, no, he's not. He's there. Okay. What can you bring to the company? Well, a warm body to warm the seat I'm sitting in. No, again, that's the same thing as, why should I hire you? Well, I can fill the spot that you want, basically. It's silly. What are your greatest strengths? Yeah, my greatest strengths are basically this kind of whip smartness, or this brightness, or this intuition. And, I have a certain kind of persistence that crops up sort of inconsistently, but happens sometimes. That can also lead me to go above and beyond what I'm asked to do, which actually in a workplace is actually not good because you are on like some timesheet. And if you put more hours into something that the boss told you to, that can get you in trouble. So it's not necessarily something that's necessarily valuable in every way. But anyway, what is your greatest weaknesses? I already told you about my greatest weaknesses. Basically, it's kind of this excessive fear, difficult time focusing, excessive fear of negative feedback, in general, like shy and timidness. What is your greatest professional achievement? Technically, I have a patent. It's not something I think is really patentable, but I technically do have a patent. So tell me about a conflict. I'm going to skip that for now because this is a Let's Play. Demonstrate leadership skills. I generally just don't. What's the time you disagree with the decision that you made? Decision that was made. So low ranking, it doesn't matter. There's some really, I don't know, it kind of gets more and more irrelevant here, but sort of like some interesting ones I found in this list are, do you plan on having children? Just like, why would you ask that in a job interview? Like, come on. Really? Like, really, sir? I mean, I can actually answer the question for you. The answer is, if you want to know my answer to that question, that is, you don't always get to choose whether or not you have a spouse, right? So, I'm somebody that does not have a spouse, that wants one. So that's kind of the situation I'm in. But despite that, have taken no earnest steps in order to achieve that goal, because I basically don't have. I'm an extremely timid person, essentially. So, I'm very quiet. Anyway, so you wouldn't think by my actions that this were true. If I do have but it's like, basically, it's like, whether or not this person that can be your spouse comes into your life or not is not something you really get to choose. So, in general, whether or not I'm going to have children is not something I'm going to be able to choose, really. But if I have personal preference, my preference would be yes, children. Just if you're curious about like what my preference is. So, I have no idea why that's a common job interview question. Doesn't seem like a good thing to ask. Sort of an unfair thing to ask in a job interview. How do you prioritize your work? The expression here is always, if you have multiple alligators coming at your boat, which one do you donk with your paddle? And the answer is, whichever one is closest to the boat. How do I prioritize where I work? I mostly do the work that has the soonest deadline. But sometimes you can kind of get burned out on that, and so you need to do a little bit of a change of work, which is not as good as a break. Just kind of like keep yourself productive and keep yourself doing something. So it's like at first pass, it's whatever deadline is closer, but then you have to kind of also consider kind of like some like efficiency. Like if your excess fixation on this one task that's the soonest deadline is starting to eat into your efficiency, then perhaps you should pick a different task for a little bit and come back to it. Just make sure you get it done before the deadline. How do you see yourself in 5 years? Well, as you know, I have, like, even with a different weapon equipped, still not figuring out a way to interact with that blue octahedron, which last episodes I was able to do. Tricky. What are your pet peeves? Well, honestly, I don't really have as many of these as most people. That's something I really like about myself. But of course, nobody likes it when people cut pie in directions that are not radially from the center to the edge. Eat half a cookie and leave the other half in the universal serving bin. No one likes that. I got lost in there. Another one is, how do you see where do you see yourself in 5 years, or where do you see yourself in 10 years? And the answer is, honest. If I were to be honest, it's probably going to be a lot like I am now, doing the same things I am now, just maybe a little bit better. So I'll still be playing Bassoon, just a little bit better than I am now. I'll still be making Let's Plays of games, I'll just be a little bit better at it than I am now. I'll still be working a job similar to the one I'm working now, just maybe be a little bit better at it than I am now. I might be a little bit stronger than I have now. Of course, I have some certain goals, like certain idealized sort of, if everything went perfectly, sort of seeing myself in 10 years, and one of them is like, I have my own home and I'm married and I have a job being a professional bassoonist where on the side I have this YouTube channel that makes money or something. But, that's not very realistic, right? But that exists, of course. How do you stay organized? My answer is I do not stay organized. Organization is very valuable when you have a workspace that's shared by multiple people. So if you have a lab space where you have multiple researchers, it's important that everything goes back where it's supposed to be, such that the other people that use the lab know where it is, right? You may clean your stuff up when you're done. If you have a workspace, and how I do that is I just put stuff back where I found it. If you have a workspace that only you use and no one else does, there's no point in being organized. In fact, if you have to put stuff back certain places when you're done with it, that just wastes time. It's very inefficient if it's your own personal space. So I would argue with a lot of people in the whole rest of the world, Organization is very important if you're working together in a team. If you're not, it is useless. It is pointless. It is not a virtue. So, yeah, how do I stay organized? Well, I just make sure I put everything back where I found it when I'm done with my task. I just don't leave stuff lying around and organize stuff by category. I don't know. I stay organized by just being organized. I follow the manual. I follow the protocol. So. What motivates you? Money. No. I will say that I would feel more motivated if the things you're doing for work, it's like the thing you're doing you feel like is actually gives you value, like it's actually helping people. You're actually, yeah, like you're directly affecting people's well-being. If you're not, it kind of makes it difficult to stay motivated. Also, if you tend to be doing the same thing over and over again, it can be hard to stay motivated. So it's important to kind of mix up which project you're working on from time to time. So. Are you willing to relocate? Yeah, if I found a better job, like a job where the cost of living is less, then I would actually like that. Of course, where I live has really good weather, and the reason why that's the reason why it's so expensive. But it's something that kind of gets in my way, and it's something very inconvenient about me. So cool. That's lots of goofy ones like, "What's the last book you've read?" My answer would be "The Hound of the Baskervilles." Do you prefer to work alone or in a team? And the answer is, it's not one or the other. I like to be in a team, but the thing is, though, I have this issue where I don't really interact with a team unless, like, I have something ready to present. So I don't like to check in, right? That's the issue. But it's nice to have people to help me out, right? Like, it's like I like help. So, you can get unstuck quicker if you are a team and you're not me. You don't have personality traits that hinder you from making that work. What's your greatest fear? Honestly, being a homeless person. Which is not a very, it's kind of a, I don't know if that's really a noble fear. Yeah, but my greatest fear is basically not being able to financially support myself. And just... And from... Yeah. I like stability and, like, assuredness. I lost so much health just because I'm trying to interact with that blue octahedron. Okay. I think that's kind of good. I got through the stuff that I really wanted to get to. About me. So, just if you're curious about me, I don't really like to talk about me that much, but if you're curious, that's kind of like what I am. Just to kind of give myself to talk about while doing this. Because I'm sort of running out, I kind of ran out of stuff to talk about. I'm going to mute the microphone on my system now. I better heal. Oh. I'm gonna mute my microphone on my system at the nearest opportunity, and then just continue to play this in silence. And hopefully, I actually finish this time. Stupid mines. There's gonna be a little bit of awkward judder in the game when I do this. I'm muting myself briefly here. You crossed the tile labyrinth in time, winning the octahedron bonus challenge. A crystal can now be charged with blue fire to provide a safe zone from octahedrons. You have unlocked a new deep root. Deep word. Okay, I already got Vaiku, so nothing new there. Okay, cool. Oh, it trapped the octahedrons inside. That's not good. I have to wait for my stuff to recharge. Okay, well, I'll mute again. Yeah, I decided to unmute, and therefore take some hits because I was undoing the, because I have to switch to a different window and I can't control it while I'm muting and unmuting. So there's a different, like, bonus for each of these types of rounds, right? So what I unlocked there was the bonus for the octahedron round. The, like, bonus puzzle. So, I presume there's a different bonus puzzle for the other different types of rounds, right? That you can unlock? Focus on damaging him in this situation. Isn't very much progress. Just got an opportunity to do some damage. What's the bonus challenge of this round? Okay. Okay, here we go with this again. Somehow just don't lose it all, somehow. Why is not all of my health bars showing? There we go. Okay. That finally appeared. Where are you, Surkahi? I'll just wait. Or not. Like, how do I trigger this to do something? I think I'm actually going to end the recording right here because of this impasse. So this is what's confusing about this. He says that I've injured him 2,000 points and I need to injure him 1,000 points more. His health is far lower than 8,000 at this point, right? So I've injured him more than 8,000. There's more than 2,000 points over the entire battle. And you might go, oh, I injured him by 2,000 points in one round. Right? And that's what triggers this. Well, I have a really hard time dishing out that much damage in a single round, so I doubt it. But I guess it's possible. So maybe if you do too much damage, this triggers. The problem is that sometimes when this triggers, however it triggers, you can't actually do it. It doesn't work. And I'm having a hard time justifying it worth it to go back to this zone over and over again, hoping that it will work. So I'm going to stop these attempts now today. Maybe I'll come back another day and try to get through this again. But it's a little bit I'm getting sort of burnt out, discouraged right now from it, due to the like sheer amount at which it's broken, essentially, and the amount I have to kind of get lucky for it to continue through. So I'm going to call it quits here for now. If you watched that, thanks for watching it. I don't know what I'm doing here. I just seem to have this... What happened to my screen? Well... have this obsession. I don't know what was going on there with the recording, but I think it's fixed now. Like, if a game has glitches, if I believe that a game is broken, like, I suddenly get more obsessed with finishing it despite it being broken. It's like the ultimate achievement, to complete the broken game. That's why I spent so much time playing The Legend of Matanui Alpha. So... I'm just gonna, like, I hung that up to do some other things that day, today, and then the same day I recorded, like, the previous 2 recordings I've made. I just couldn't let this rest, and had to pick it up and start again, and do it until I got it, right? So, just couldn't get over it. Sure it's equipped. Come on, where are you, Surkahi? There you are. I got hit by the octahedron. Getting hammered with octahedrons. Okay. Gonna get you, Surkahi. 1 minute left in the round. Hit by gear. – 45 seconds. Me with that octahedron, sir. Kahi, sir. Okay. There you are. This one, like, because the squares block the heavy attack that goes straight, you're basically, it's not very effective, so you're basically just gonna diffuse attack the whole time. That's the best you can really, I found I could do. Get a good, good opening, you can make one hit. Yeah, but it tends to not hit because you're being surrounded by these blocks that block the concentrated attack. Healing already, sir. Okay, let's look around here. Yeah, what's this do? There's a square there, right? Okay, he's out. It's gotta be something to do with this particular, puzzle type's, secret deep puzzle. You know what I mean? This particular, round type. Halfway through. Damaging. Oh, phooey. Square's down at that corner. Stupid mine thing going on here. Nope. Another mine. That round. Keep going. Okay, this is octahedrons. So octahedrons, you just can't damage him, so you just run around for 3 minutes. And it's really boring, and makes for very bad Let's Play footage. But it does allow my healing mask to recharge any health lost, or if I did have any. But I can only do that in 1 minute. I don't need 3 whole minutes to do that. Only 2% left. So quite a lot left. I'm gonna take at least an hour to complete. Okay. Deepward thingamajiggy. The specific round type puzzle doesn't appear until about 45 seconds left. So nothing exciting is going to happen for more than a minute. I don't have any exciting stories to tell. Besides, an infinite number of people walked into a bar. Oh, you get the gist. Have you heard the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise? Did I really make that mistake? Okay, that was stupid. Brain fart at the beginning of this whole thing. Oh, I could have told the peach pie story, but I'm not gonna do that. Not yet. Another brain fart there. Didn't think ahead. It's all about thinking ahead. Nuju. Channel my Nuju here. Whoop. Got it. It's Vito. Oh, Vaiku, right? Yeah. Yep, Vaiku. I already had that written down. Okay. So then you can, like, use that. Oh, it starts the clock over at top of 3 minutes all over again? What? Well, that's a thing. Well, anyway, you could just kind of camp out in here forever. I just made it even more boring. Now, I don't even have to run around in circles. I could just sit there in this one spot the entire time. Yeah, all my topics I want to save for specific videos, right? Like, I don't want to talk about gene doping until the Ever 17 recap. I don't want to talk about, like, ethics and copyright stuff until the next World's Hardest Game or whatever. You know, maybe I can talk about that, because that's kind of one of the most obscure things. Like, people aren't going to get this far into one of my videos, so it's something I can kind of tuck inside here real deep. So, and this is going to get a little bit, I don't know if I want to call it deep, but a little bit like I'm incompetent and don't know what I'm doing, sort of type of thing. So, have you ever heard that expression? I forgot who actually said it. It was something like, you have a duty to obey the just laws and disobey unjust laws. Right? I forgot actually. I could Google it, but the problem is if I Googled it, then the time would stop. And this is kind of like, I don't know if it was necessarily Reverend Martin Luther King. The thing, it doesn't seem like something if Martin Luther King really knew his theology well, he wouldn't have said something like that. For some reason, that's the name that comes to mind, of course. And this is kind of like the catchphrase, that little, like, little piece of, like, little phrase to kind of succinctly describe a concept called civil disobedience. If you've gone to public school in the United States, you've probably heard of something called civil disobedience. And the idea is that the laws aren't going to change. If the laws are unjust, they're not going to change unless, like, the world gets really disrupted as a result of them. So, unless you make people's lives hard. And so you have to intentionally disobey them. Otherwise, they'll continue to remain unjust. Okay, so one of these again. Obviously, starting out in the healing thing. Now, what do I think of the concept of civil disobedience? Well, as I told you before, I'm a Christian. So what does that mean? Well, it means that I have to pay attention to Romans 13. So, I don't have Romans 13 memorized. Basically the idea, but, like, here's kind of like a phrase from it. That is, The law is not a terror to those who do good, but the law is only a terror to those who do evil. Is essentially what it is one of the phrases that we call him Saint Paul or the Apostle Paul said in his letter to the Romans. Now, which even the secular world believes to be an authentic writing of Paul to the Romans. Why did he say this? Well, it's. I don't want to speak for Paul too much, but the idea is, to maximize the effectiveness of your evangelism, you want to maximize. You want to like be above reproach in all things, which means you basically don't want to have anything as a Christian that the world can criticize you for, like. You say you follow God with this character, however, you disobey the laws that us people have agreed upon to govern ourselves with, essentially. And so if you disobey laws, that gives a line of reproach, essentially. A way for you to be criticized that you don't want. And even if you think there's some good reason to disobey said laws, you get distracted by that, right? You're trying to explain them Jesus, and instead, you're all sidetracked trying to justify why it's okay to disobey some law you disobeyed. Right? It gets you distracted and off track. So, the individual and the church want to be above reproach in all ways, so it doesn't matter what kind of, whatever crazy laws there are in whatever state you exist in, you should obey them, right? Just obey those laws. Unless you end up in a Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego situation, or the Sanhedrin tells you don't preach Jesus again. Like, the whole point is to preach Jesus. So if the law says you can't, well then, okay, don't get lose sight of the point. But, other than that, right, you obey the laws. Basically maximize what you do to become above reproach while still trying to accomplish your commission. Okay? So, hopefully that's well explained. So, because of this, I don't do or support the idea of civil disobedience. The laws are bad, you want them changed. Well, I will agree that if you don't really do something like civil disobedience, you won't be very effective at actually getting them changed. So I just say accept the bad laws and the unjust laws as they are and just go about your life, right? When the regime tells you you're not allowed to wear jeans, you just don't wear jeans, right? You don't just civil disobey wear jeans. I'm referencing North Korea, by the way, if you don't understand that, right? If you wear your hair short, it's to be short, long if it's to be long. And even if you have to join the pleasure squad, remember that Esther did actually go and become Xerxes' wife, right? So, I mean, I don't even know. I presume you would actually still go and do. Anyway, continuing on. So this is really interesting. There's, of course, the famous subreddit, Ask Reddit, and Ask Reddit is a very very effective database of prevalent I was about to say sexual. I don't know why I said that. Secular thought in the or basically the culture of the day, right? You have to kind of tap into kind of what the attitude is of the current man. And it is, although oftentimes quite junky, it is kind of fascinating to browse. Actually, it's usually very junky. Sometimes kind of messed up. I'm just warning you. Not necessarily a recommendation here to go browsing Ask Reddit a lot. But one of the topics that came out on Ask Reddit, and probably is repeated often, because people tend to ask the same questions on Ask Reddit over and over again. By the way, I don't have a Reddit, if you're wondering. I'm not on Reddit. It's just useful if you're, trying to find the answer to some technical question, or how to play a game or something. One of the questions that came up was, what laws are there that, it's morally correct to disobey them? Basically, what is illegal but morally okay? Was one of the questions on Ask Reddit. And again, because people tend to ask the same questions over and over again on Ask Reddit, this question has probably been asked multiple times on Ask Reddit. But I only saw it once, but it's probably been asked multiple times. And if you go through the most prevailing thought on the answer to this, like there's two of the most common answers. The most common answer is downloading and playing a copy of a game that is for someone still holds the intellectual property, someone still holds the copyright, but is no longer selling it. In other words, they're just kind of sitting on it, there's no way to buy it. Basically, they're saying, like, pirating a game that you can't buy. That's what they were saying. And the second most common answer is similar to that. It was picking out clothes from, like, a dumpster behind the clothing store. Essentially, like, if they can't sell something, eventually they throw it out. Right? And then just collecting the thrown out clothes that they couldn't sell. Was the second most common, which is illegal in some places apparently. I know I've never thought about that. Like I thought usually what happens is the clothes that you can't sell, what they do is they send them to something called an outlet mall for a really, really reduced price, and then the outlet mall sells them for a slight markup above that. They end up in the outlet, so like a VFW outlet or whatever you call that, those various outlet franchises. If you haven't heard of, like, you need to, like, do food or something here. Let me take care of that. Give myself some food. Okay. So if I don't do this often enough, I'll forget to, and then I'll die suddenly, unexpectedly. So, don't want to end up in that situation. So those are the two most common answers, and they're both like the same like concept. It's like stealing something that they aren't selling anymore. Is basically the idea. And here's like the defense of you not being able to do that. So, for example, for the video games, right? If video games went into, say, public domain, immediately after a video game company stopped making it so that you can buy it, then what would happen is, when video games were on sale, no one would buy them. Like, on sale not as in like a discount, on sale as in like, they're for sale. And because no one buys them, they can't really sell any copies, so they just go, okay, fine, and we can't sell any more of these, or maybe the amount of sales is really low. So then they make it publicly, then it just goes into public domain. When it goes into public domain, then suddenly everybody plays it. In other words, everybody waits for it to go into public domain before they play it, and their waiting helps facilitate it going into public domain. As it makes it much more difficult to sell video games. Essentially, the whole idea that if you don't buy the video game while it's on sale, or you can't, makes it so the game actually gets sold while it's on sale. Otherwise, it wouldn't be, right? Same thing with the clothes. If you could just pick up the clothes thrown out in the dumpster, then no one would buy clothes. And then they would just wait for dumpster stuff. And then because no one would buy the clothes, well, they'd all end up in the dumpster, and then people would pick them out of the dumpster. Right? It would be impossible to sell anything. It would make it very difficult to sell anything. This is not a problem with things like food, because food goes to waste after a while. So, okay, here's the stupid mechanic that... Okay, it's actually working this time. So... I'm going to really go hard on the food here. I'm gonna go all the way up to 400 on both of them. Okay. Oh, yeah. The concentrated blast doesn't work, so just do radio blasts and that's it, basically on this part. I don't know why, it just doesn't hit him. Like, I try to shoot it and it doesn't hit. As long as, I'm hoping I'm actually doing damage to him too, because... See... It just goes right through him. Where it seems like my melee and my burst both work. At least they have that feedback of showing like damage. They don't. It might be possible he's not actually taking the damage, which is a problem. Oh, it's 0. 0. Taking a lot of hits here. Ready to hit 0. Zero. 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 So, well, I'm gonna bring up this, finish with this, like, I'm gonna finish with that topic of conversation I was going off on when I'm done with this little boss within the boss thing. Because, like, it's... I'm hoping he's actually taking the damage. If he's not taking the damage, then I'm in real trouble. Like, if there's a glitch where this damage is... he's not actually absorbing this damage. I can imagine that being the case. I'm very worried it's the case. Huh. The disc is doing damage to him. That's interesting. Yeah, he's actually taking hits from the disc. But it's kind of bizarre, but... okay. Every time he goes to sand, I'm just hoping he's going to be defeated for the last time. And you know, it's like, nope, it's just sand. Come on, take... how long should it take to do 1,000 damage? Didn't seem like it should take this long. Are you really taking damage? For dust I am, and dust I return to and come back from multiple times. And this challenge is fundamentally broken. The only way really to make it through this is just to not never do him 2,000 damage on the same round, essentially. Otherwise you end up in this mode and then you can't get out. It's like, please, please don't be broken. I presume if you finally finish this, you get another deep word. That's what I'm guessing. And it just goes on to the next, like... and then the 1,000 damage gets maintained, right? So you just start with the rounds again with him at 1,000 damage less. Doesn't feel being impervious to my projectile attack. If the text is just wrong, and basically I have to finish him off in here. Like, I have to do all 6,000 damage in this little room. I really don't understand what's going on. Okay, this is going on so long, I'll kind of restart the whole topic. So, left off with the whole clothes thing. So, next comment I'm going to make is I admit that copyrights in the United States are quite long. Another thing that I also admit is I've been offered, like, some books about this to get a better understanding, but I'm really... and this is kind of a disappointment I have with the education system, honestly. Don't understand copyright law in any sort of decent way. Like, I don't know what matters are criminal and what matters are civil. So I'm going to be talking kind of vaguely about that. I'm just going to say legal trouble. It's like... here's kind of my problem I've had with this. One is... so, if you remember back to, like, my Never 7 Let's Play, basically how that went is I googled Never 7. And tried to figure out how... and I found some Reddit post, right? And someone asked, what's the best way to play Never 7? And someone said, oh, you just play this. You play this fan port called the Love 2D port, and... it's great, that's how you play it, right? So basically I downloaded that port and that's how I played it. And I recorded myself playing that game and posted it on the internet. At the time I didn't really understand these kind of things. So now I understand that I'm pretty sure that Never 7, someone holds that intellectual property. And when the fans of Never 7 made the fan port, they violated some sort of violated some sort of, like, intellectual property law of some sort, right? Like, someone still holds that copyright. Kid went out of business, but when Kid went out of business, its assets got bought by somebody, right? So I was like, what makes it more complicated is it's Japanese. So when it comes to United States copyright, in order to check, like, if someone owns the copyright to something, or if so who, you just basically go on the Library of Congress website and you search it up. Right, you search the name of the piece of media, and you can tell who owns the copyright for that piece of media. Relatively straightforward, right? I don't know how to do that for Japan. Second of all, I don't understand what happens if the thing you pirated, quote-unquote, is foreign, or if you do something where you just take someone else's commercial game and you port it on some other engine, and then you share that around, like on Reddit or whatever, in some other country besides its country of origin where it was never sold in the first place, what that does and how it has to do with international relations, and, like, kind of what are the complications with that. By the time I didn't really understand or really think about those things, I just was like, okay, well, I want to play this. Oh, here it is, and then I just played it, right? And I record myself playing it. And sort of afterward, I'm starting to realize, oh, this is like some sort of, this is one of those like really contentious political things, and it's more complicated than I think it is. And I don't know if I'm going to get in any trouble later in my life for posting this stuff on the internet. It's kind of like if you like post a video of yourself speeding on the internet, right? Can you get a ticket for that? I don't know. Realistically, I think nobody's going to ever care. I don't think it's ever going to matter. But it was just kind of like something that kind of makes me a little bit nervous. But there is this special interest in that is to preserve the art that someone like me naturally has, right? If I was able to enjoy something, I want future generations and everybody, maybe people who get into the video game world a little bit later, to enjoy the same games that I did. And so I kind of get upset at companies like Nintendo when they do things like just pull stuff off their web store. I understand that it takes some money to host that data on a server, but like it's kind of like upsetting because you're like, well, and then they kind of like hold on to the intellectual property of it while they have it not for sale. It's kind of like it's not a very nice move to make as a company, and it would make your fans a whole lot happier if stuff remained accessible at for perpetuum, right? Whatever that word is. In perpetuium, or whatever the word is I'm trying to say, right? And you don't have stuff suddenly become inaccessible and no longer playable and trapped under a lock and key. It's not something you should ever do. It's just kind of mean. But hey, don't mess this up. But I'm not someone who advocates like doing it anyway. I don't know if it's a criminal or civil matter, but I have to confess that I essentially did do it at a couple points. I don't think because it's going to ever catch up with me because it's foreign and it's both foreign and it's the company who made it went out of business, and so there isn't a whole lot of people that would complain. But it's, you know, how stuff works. I always buy the game if it's on sale. I'll even buy a used physical. I'll buy it used if I can find it used. And just some of these games like Infinity, it's you can't even get a used copy. If you do, it's like not the English localization, or it's like a PSP port or something, which might be inferior to the original PC port. So it's like, if you want to play them, what do you do? I don't know. It says party healed. Okay, healed completely, but it wasn't healing. And this guy is just not taking, like, this is going on perpetually. I'm recording for 1 hour. I'm going to quit regardless of whether or not this actually ends, because this is, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if you can actually finish this. Okay, we're getting 10 minutes of this, like, special challenge here. Doesn't matter if I use up all this space, I'm going to use like a save file next time I play this anyway, so I can use up all my food essentially. Oh, it's not endless. Okay, it ended. Whew. Oh, that made me really nervous. Okay. Yeah, it made me nervous he wasn't taking damage at all. So, let's keep going. Is he gonna give me a deep word or something? Okay, Surkahi says, congratulations, you have faced my challenge and overcome. You may now ask me the meanings of deep words. Words of great importance in the language of my people. So we're going to start with Hurungi. I don't forget how many deep words there are, but I believe there's more than 2. We only know 2, so... Something went wrong here. Is there like a delete? Whatever we're gonna do is... That was... Okay. J... A... H... U... Can't type this in, right? Okay. They don't have that in RPG Maker? You know, they make it so you can type stuff in? This font obviously bothers me because the spacing between the letters is all wonky. Rung... Jahurungi. Okay. Done. Jahurungi means map maker in the language of my people. In a deep word, the Jahurungi is the one destined to unravel the great mysteries of the Paracosmos. The Jahurungi is one of 2 Tahunga living in Takora who falsely believe their element is fire. The other one being Takua. The Jahurungi's element is blue fire. The blue fire staff is not merely a tool of power. It enables you, though a Matoran, to channel the elemental power inside you. This is why the Jahurungi shall solve mystery, for the blue fire burns hotter than any other fire, enough to eliminate the darkest abyss and decimate the strongest fortress wall. I presume this just means plasma. Although I don't understand how plasma is blue, but whatever. and earning the blue fire, the old mapmaker, who feared the unknown, has been consumed by the flames, so that he might truly become the Jahurungi. For the only way to truly conquer the unknown is to face it. Ask about another deep word. Okay, Vaiku. This gives me flashbacks to typing in passcodes for Bionicle the Game GBA with my hotkeys rotated 45 degrees. Okay, Vaiku. Vaiku is our word for destiny. As a deep word, it refers to special destinies like that of the Jahurungi that are tied to the Paracosmos itself. That's it. So those are only 2 deep words that I know. Leave. So I don't know if there are other deep words you can get. Maybe, Ochinum, or however you pronounce it, Ochilum, can let me know if there are, but, that's one completion of that boss, so I feel like I've at least checked the box to some degree. If you watched that, thank you for watching it. Especially that last part. That should be my final video for good for Bionicle Paracosmos. Now that I've actually finished that fight. Yeah, cool.